Hello! I just got these two pieces of makeup in the mail from Charlotte Tilbury, and I was really excited to see this palette in particular become available again. And I figured I have some other Charlotte Tilbury cheek products. Why don't I do a quick video doing some swatches and comparisons, and that way if you're considering purchasing this but you're not sure how different or similar it is to what you already own, I can give you a little bit of a frame of reference. So this palette, this is called the Glowgasm Face Palette, and it's the Glowgasm version. The packaging is beautiful. This is a palette that came out several years ago and I wanted it, but by the time that I even realized it existed and that I wanted it, it already wasn't available anymore. I think it might have been limited edition or something. And so I kind of secretly hoped that they would bring it back at some point. They never did. Eventually another face palette came out. This is the Nudegasm face palette and it has a similar setup. And so I was like, you know what? I do still want a palette like this. It's not exactly the same as this one, but I'll buy it anyway because it doesn't seem like they're ever gonna bring this one back. Now, several years later, they have brought it back and I knew I still wanted it. And then I also purchased this new Pinkgasm Beauty Light Wand, and this is in the shade Pinkgasm Sunset. And the swatches looked really pretty. I already know I love this formula, and I do have a handful of other wands, including the original Pinkgasm, so I thought I would just swatch them all for you as a frame of reference as well. And then I do have a couple of other face products. I have this blush here. This is in the shade Ecstasy, and then I do have a little bit left of the highlighter from the Film Star Bronze and Glow Duo. And then I also have this quad here, the Pillow Talk quad from Charlotte Tilbury, and I have used up two of the shades already, but I do have these two. So again, I just thought I would swatch them next to each other just to kind of help you get a really good idea of what these shades actually look like, at least on someone with my skin tone. So let us start with the palette here. The new palette is this one, beautiful. And then this one is the Nudegasm palette, which is the one that I've had for a long time. And so obviously it looks a lot more used and abused. The main difference between these two is that this one, the Nudegasm, has a bronzer and a contour and then one blush and highlighter, while the Glowgasm, the Lovegasm palette, has two blushes, a bronzer, and a highlighter. And I feel like this bronzer is pretty warm and maybe a little rosy, so it could be argued that that is also a blush. No, it says bronze on the back of the packaging, so I do think it is intended to be a bronzer, but of course you can use any of these however you like. So this is the highlighter from the Nudegasm palette, and then this is the highlighter from the Glowgasm palette. And definitely the formula feels the same to me, and it looks the same on my fingers, but definitely the newer palette, the re-released one, the Glowgasm, is much more gold and warm. This first one is the Lovegasm, and this one's the Glowgasm. You can see that Glowgasm one is a little bit darker, and I apologize. I would compare this to Champagne Pop if I had it, but I already finished that mini highlighter that I had a couple of weeks ago. But I do have another golden highlighter. This one is from Melt. It's the Stargazer highlight. I can swatch this one in case you just so happen to have that one. This one's definitely a lot more champagne and icy. That's what it looks like compared to the other two. And then I do have the Film Star Bronze and Glow Duo, and this is the light to medium version. And speaking of light to medium version, if I'm not mistaken, I thought that there were two versions of the original Glowgasm, like a light and then a deeper one, but I don't think that that's available on the website. I think just this one is available on the website. The one from the Film Star Bronze and Duo, number one, is much older. I've had this duo for probably like 6 or 7 years, but also it is a more natural formula. And so there it is right there. And again, this is the one from the Nudegasm, Glowgasm, and then this is Melt Stargazer. So a lot more subtle. Okay, I just wanted to be as thorough as possible, so I thought I'd swatch all the highlighters next to each other. This first one here is the highlighter from the Nudegasm palette, the older one. And then this next one is from the Glowgasm, the one I just got. This one here is from the Filmstar Bronze and Glow Duo. And then this one here is Spotlight, which is the Beauty Light one, so it's a liquid highlight. And then this next one here is the one from Pillow Talk. I thought I would just swatch it next to it, just for your reference. And then this one here is Melt Stargazer. Try to get a little bit closer. I have trouble with my camera not focusing when I get this close. So hopefully that is visible to you. And then this is Pinkgasm Sunset, the one I just got, just again, for your reference. Now let's compare these bronzer and contour shades, and I'll do the blushes last. I will start with the contour wand, which this is the fair medium version, and that's what it looks like before it's blended out, but I will blend it a little bit just so it looks a little bit more comparable to the other shades. And then I'll start with this one here from the Glowgasm palette, from the newer palette. Rubbing it in just a little bit. And then I'll take this, the deeper bronzier shade from the Nudegasm palette, and swatch that one next. You can see that it's definitely more cool toned than the one from the Nudegasm palette, and I would say that this bronzer is very orangey. It's got a little bit of a sheen to it, whereas the one from the Nudegasm palette is more matte. Doesn't look chalky or anything, but you can see like the one from the Nudegasm palette definitely has a sheen to it, and it's pretty orangey. I would probably not use that as a bronzer. I would likely use that as like a bronzy blush. Maybe a bronze topper. And lastly, this contour shade. This one is the most cool toned of the bunch. And just for the sake of being thorough, I am gonna grab this brown shadow from the Pillow Talk Quad and swatch that one last. This one's gonna have a rosiness to it, kind of like a pinky brown, but that makes sense given the other shades from that palette. And also it's not intended to be a bronzer. I just figured one more. So this is the contour wand in fair medium, the bronzer from the Glowgasm palette, the bronzer from the Nudegasm palette, the contour from the Nudegasm palette, and then this is that brown eyeshadow from the Pillow Talk Quad. All right, now for the biggest category, let's look at the blushes. I'm not sure how I want to do this. I zoomed out the camera a little bit just so I had a little bit more room to work with. Blushes, that one's gonna be a bit hard to get them all on the back of my hand, but I will do my best. Pillow Talk, it could be argued that it's also a highlighter, but it does have a pinkiness to it, so I'm gonna include it in this comparison. What I'll do first is I will compare the liquids and then I'll do the powders. So let's start with the lightest, that is Pillow Talk. And then this one here is the original Pinkgasm. And then this one at the end is Pinkgasm Sunset. And then I will go through and kind of shear them out a little bit. All right, so this one here is Pillow Talk, this is Pinkgasm, and this is Pinkgasm Sunset, that new shade. At first I thought that Pinkgasm Sunset was a lot deeper than Pinkgasm, but I would say when you shear it out, it's only a little bit deeper, and the main difference is that instead of having a light gold flip to it, like a metallic sheen to it, it's definitely like a deeper orangey gold, and it gives it more of a coppery effect. All right, and last but not least, the blushes. So I'm gonna start with this one from the Nudegasm palette. This one is kind of like a peachy golden one. And then I am going to swatch this bottom corner blush from the Glowgasm. I'm getting so confused. And I'm going to swatch that one first because I think it's the most similar to the one from the Nudegasm palette. And then I'm going to swatch this top corner shade again from the Glowgasm palette. So this is the shade from the Nudegasm, and then these are the two shades from the Glowgasm. And then this is the Pinkgasm Sunset shade. It's very similar to that darker blush from the Glowgasm palette, but it definitely pulls a lot more like orangey red. It doesn't have as much pink in it. I would say the one from the palette is just a little bit more pink. And just because I have it, I will swatch this Ecstasy shade next to it. It's a little bit of a softer color. And then this pink eyeshadow from the Pillow Talk Luxury palette. And lastly, I'm going to do a direct swatch of all 4 shades from each palette to compare. All right, I really hope this is in focus. So these 4 shades are from the Nudegasm palette, and these 4 shades are from the Glowgasm palette. And then I also wanted to show a quick clip of it without my ring light on. I don't have a ton of light in here currently, but I thought it would just be another perspective on the colors and the undertones and the shifts and everything like that. I wouldn't say that these are the most different palettes in the entire world, and I cannot say whether or not it's worth owning both. That's really up to you, but I am glad I have both. I have always secretly wanted this palette, and the packaging, everything about it is just a 10 out of 10. I also like that they're not too big, like they're nice and, you know, it's the size of my hand, just a little bit bigger than my palm. I think that's a really great size, really great for traveling too. These are nice, heavy, sturdy pieces of packaging. I don't feel like they're flimsy. They also have a really, really nice big mirror in there. Like, I just think these are very well made, good palettes. So that was my comparison. I hope it was useful and that it helps you make a more informed purchasing decision. But in the meantime, that's everything I have. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you in my next video.